Hamara, Pakistan with your host, Sajjad Mirza on Red FM. You are listening to Hamara, Pakistan with your host, Sajjad Mirza on Red FM.
जी साहब, प्रोग्राम आप सुन रहे हैं हमारा पाकिस्तान आपके अपने चैनल 106.7 रेड एफएम से। प्रोग्राम में शामिल होने के लिए हमारे स्टूडियो का नंबर 403-286-1067 हुआ करता है। किसी भी अच्छी खूबसूरत प्यारी सी बात के साथ आप इस प्रोग्राम का हिस्सा बन सकते हैं। तो जैसा कि आपके इल्म में है जी कि सिविक इलेक्शन 2021 जो है उसकी आमद है और ये इलेक्शन 18 अक्टूबर को होने के लिए जा रहे हैं। इसमें जितने भी कैंडिडेट हैं और ख़वातीन और हज़रात सारे जनाब इस मैदान में है और हर कोई अपना अपना जो पर्सपेक्टिव है, अपना जो मौक़िफ़ है वो बयान करने की कोशिश कर रहा है। और रेड एफएम में हमेशा अपने तमाम कैंडिडेट्स को, ये फेडरल इलेक्शन हो, प्रोविंशियल हो या फिर सिविक इलेक्शन हो, तो इसमें रेड एफएम कोशिश करता है कि अपने जितने भी कैंडिडेट है सबको मौका दिया जाए और वो अपना जो भी उनका मौक़िफ़ है, जो भी उनका गोल है, जो मकसद है, जो एम लेके कैंडिडेट वो बने हैं या वो काउंसलर बनना चाह रहे हैं या मेयर बनना चाह रहे हैं, ये सारी चीज़ें मतलब उनके ज़हन में क्या है। तो इसी चीज़ की जो एक जो सिलसिला एक सीरीज़ है वो रेड एफएम पे चल रही है। और प्रोग्राम हमारा पाकिस्तान में भी हमारे वार्ड 5 के जितने भी कैंडिडेट हैं, इससे पहले जो है वो तशरीफ़ ला चुके हैं। तारिक खान साहब, स्टैन संधू और उसके बाद राज डालीवाल थे कल। आज मेरे साथ मौजूद हैं जनाब ताहिर मिराली साहब। और ताहिर मिराली से आज हम बात करने की कोशिश करेंगे जी कि इनका मकसद क्या है, ये मतलब कौन सी आस उम्मीद लेके आए हैं, ये क्यों कैंडिडेट बने हैं, इनका मकसद क्या है, ये सारी चीज़ें आज के प्रोग्राम में हम शामिल करेंगे। और मेरे साथ जिस तरह मैंने बताया कि मेरे साथ आज टेलीफोन लाइन पे मौजूद हैं जनाब ताहिर मेराली। ताहिर साहब, वेलकम टू द स्टूडियो।
Sajjad Mirza ji, thank you so much for having me. Assalamu alaikum, to the viewers, and I appreciate your time for having me to talk a little about Ward 5 and the upcoming election on my platform.
Yeah, and accept my bundle of thanks to you spare the time to talk to our listeners, and thank you so much, and I really appreciate. Like everybody knows, the civic elections are coming up, and everybody's anxiously waiting for the elected candidate, and we have given the opportunity to all the candidates, and you are also one of them. And I have not like a detailed questions. I have the same pattern, and definitely I would ask you the same questions. So for those people who are not familiar with Tahir, who is Tahir Merali? So would you like to say about yourself?
Certainly. My name is Tahir Merali, and I'm running for Ward 5 City Councillor in the election coming up on October 18th. I am a professional engineer and project manager. I have worked in a number of different industries, including aerospace, automotive, as well as oil and gas sectors. I've worked with small businesses, have started a startup. I've worked with Fortune 500 companies and big business. I have had the opportunity to work not only here in Calgary, raise my family here right in Ward 5, but I've also had the opportunity to visit a number of different other cities here in Canada and around the world, and understand what it really means to build a thriving community, to have cities that people want to come raise their families, to come bring their businesses, to be able to set up shop and make a great life. And so Calgary, I have lived here for 25 years. I've lived in the ward for 8, and I am very familiar with some of the challenges, but also the opportunities that present itself here in the ward, as well as around the city of Calgary.
Good to know. Okay, next, I'm just curious, like, why did you decide to run? What are the motivations?
Yeah, absolutely. So, public office is one way of many to be able to make an impact to our community. And at the municipal level, it is one of the ways that we are able to directly impact our constituents and really interact with them on a daily basis. For me, as I mentioned, I've lived here for a number of years. I've seen our city grow, and I want to see it continue to thrive and not to stagnate or not to stall. And so the main driver for me was to ensure that this election, this council that is coming up, I call it's a generational election. The decisions that we make with this new council are going to change what Calgary is going to look like in the next 10 years very significantly. And we need the appropriate leadership and voice to be able to make the decisions to set us up for success. And with that voice and leadership at Ward 5, especially with George Shahal moving on to federal politics, there was a vacuum of this voice and leadership now at City Hall. So for us to be able to have someone that could speak for the needs and long-term needs forward here in Ward 5 was part of my motivation to get engaged in our democratic and political process.
Perfect. जी, अपने सुनने वाले को बताते चलें कि प्रोग्राम हमारा पाकिस्तान, और इस प्रोग्राम में आज मेरे साथ टेलीफोन लाइन पे जो मेरे मेहमान हैं, मेरे जो गेस्ट हैं, ताहिर मिराली साहब हैं। आप कैंडिडेट हैं काउंसलर वार्ड 5 के, और इससे पहले भी हमारे जो मुख्तलिफ कैंडिडेट हैं उनको हम इनवाइट कर चुके हैं इस प्रोग्राम में। And Tahir, as I said before, these are the same questions which has already been asked like the other candidates, and I would like to know, not me, even my listeners too, they would like to know what are the issues that you hear from the voters or the residents of your ward.
Absolutely. So I've been knocking on doors across the many communities here in Ward 5 since July every single day. And I hear from the residents a number of different things, but I'll share the top three ones with you. The first major one is there's a lot of crime, and it's not just the large crime with gangs and gun violence, which we certainly need to continue to be able to manage and to eliminate, but also petty crime when it comes to robberies and thefts, break-ins, stolen vehicles. There's a lot of that going on in various parts of the ward and all across the city. And so part of what I would hope to do to help address these issues, at least with crime, would be to be able to have a conversation with the various other councillors, have a look at how our policing budget is structured, and to see if we can perhaps enhance or perhaps put more attention and focus on things like new patrols, or implementing kind of bring back the old block watch program and have it a bit more technology enabled, so that we can have the deterrent in place to help make sure these types of crimes are lowered in our area. Another major issue is transportation and transit. And so the northeast of Calgary has been chronically or significantly underfunded in terms of key pieces of infrastructure over many, many years. And with the previous councillor, the outgoing councillor, he's brought that voice to get some attention to certain things. But there needs to be a priority and a voice for people in our area to speak for a number of things. One is reliable transit, to really build great communities and to build an area where people want to live in their community. We need accessible transit, and we need it to be reliable. And a lot of folks have told me that there's some areas where busing isn't reliable enough to get to work in the morning, or to drop their kids or drop their mother or father off at certain places. It's challenging to even just do the daily things with not even reliable busing. C-Train and the Blue Line, of course, which extends deep into the northeast. I would like to see that extended from where it currently is at Saddletown Station all the way up into Skyview and Redstone. It's on the plans for the city in their 2030 route ahead plan, but it's on a medium to low priority. So we need a strong voice to say, let's make sure that we're not forgetting the people of Ward 5 and getting them what they need for transit. And the third piece is being able to, is very simple. People want to have a beautiful community. People want to be proud of the place that they live in. They want to be able to look outside and see, the grass taken care of, the snow plowed on a regular basis or more frequent basis. They want to have trees that are beautified and replaced. A lot of people have told me that they look outside their windows and they see kind of a disheveled or dirty grass or burnt grass or things not taken care of in an effective manner by the city of public land. And so sometimes it just comes down to really simple solutions. And my experience, and sometimes those are the things that have the largest impact. And so working with folks and as a councillor, the role really is to listen to the people, to listen to those issues, to kind of take that together and make true data-driven decisions on what people are saying, but also take into account the fact that there's a human factor. So not just look at the data, but also understand the impact downstream on the everyday individual.
Perfect. Like these are the issues like you heard from the voters and the residents of your ward before when you are the candidate for the councillor, but if elected, what are your priorities?
Absolutely. So for here in Northeast Calgary, as I mentioned, we're missing a lot of key pieces of infrastructure in various parts of the ward. So one of the most recent budget allocations from City Council was to build a field house in the Northeast in kind of along Country Hills Boulevard. That is wonderful news because a lot of the residents on the northern side of the ward that aren't as close to the Genesis Center have to drive, some cases, 20 minutes to get to the Genesis Center to access the recreation facility. And that's just not acceptable when it comes to having a truly connected community where we want our families to grow up and for families to be together and congregate. So the city has allocated funding, which is wonderful, but it's on a list of 6 other project priorities that could be built in the next 7 years based on the city's press release earlier this year. So there still relies a point where there's been people that have been living, say, in a community of Skyview almost for 8-9 years now, and they're, are they expecting to wait another 7-8 years for their recreation place to be built? No. So for me, one of my first priorities would be to expedite or be able to get that field house built as quickly as possible to ensure that people have access to that particular piece of infrastructure. The other thing I would try to do is to help understand better and fix what I call a broken prioritization system for schools. And so there's a number of new communities being built, and of course existing communities. Some of them have schools. In the newer communities, only now, for example, again, I'll use Skyview Redstone as an example. There's one public school that is currently being built that will be open next year, but the community has been around for 8 to 9 years. So what other cities across Canada have a very efficient and effective system of saying, here's a new community, here's how we're planning transit, here's how we're planning services, here's how we're planning schools. But for some reason, in Calgary, there's an issue where it takes, we're not talking 2 or 3 years, it's taking 8, 9 years to get a school built in a new community. You have all these young families that move into these new communities, and then, they want to send their kids to school, at elementary school or junior high school, and it's not accessible. Well, that's not acceptable for folks that want to come help raise their family here and build their businesses here. They need access to these things. So understanding why our system is broken and to help reprioritize the functioning of prioritizing those schools is another one of my priorities.
Okay, perfect.
And the third, yeah.
Lastly, any message to the audience, to my listeners?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned before, this is a very important election. It is what I call a generational election. It is the chance to choose what you want the future of your ward, of your community, and of your Calgary to look like. Council will have very challenging decisions, but we want to have the people that have the experience and leadership to be able to make the hard decisions and to help take our communities forward and launch those needs forward. So if you have the opportunity, please take the time to look at your voter information card, find a time to get out and vote. Advance voting opens October 4th through 10th, so that's starting on Monday. Of course, the election is on October 18th. And I encourage you as well, if you'd like to learn more about my platform and more about what I stand for, please visit votemerali.ca for more information, and feel free to reach out to me to have a conversation if you'd like. I'd like to thank you all for your time, and I look forward to your support at the polls in the upcoming election.
Thank you so much, Mr. Merali, for joining the program Hamara Pakistan, and I really appreciate for your kind wording, your message, and best of luck again. Thank you so much for being the part of my show. Thank you.
Thank you kindly, Mirza.
Thank you.